casting this FNCS was out of this world. From being on the broadcast for Central and day one ending by just 1 point and ending overall just as close was crazy. And then going on my own stream and casting NA West, a 79-point lead by Epik Well and Pump after day one almost squandered. An insane clutch by Phoenix and Retro in the last game pulled it within 9 points for the FNCS West Championship. There's 8 spots up for grabs, 6 for Central, 2 for West. There's so much to talk about, so let's get right into the mix. First up, let's talk about Central. I'm blessed to be able to cast such action as a part of the main broadcast, where Peterbot and Poyo ended the day off 333 points, 1 point ahead of Ritual and Cold, 6 points ahead of Muzz and Rise, a few more points ahead of Acorn and Boltz. Just under 300 was Batman Booga and Curve. Yes, he went bat to Batman Booga for this one. And then Agers and Veno going into this one, a triple contested drop. They ended the day in 6th place, 276 points. Could have been much better. Went down early due to a lurk play, but again, this one was crazy. At the end of the day, though, it was actually game 12 that mattered for every single thing on the line. The actual FNCS championship on the board, placings underneath, the 6 global championship spots. So let's just quickly talk about it. It was Acorn and Boltz who eventually took out the win. They were absolutely insane almost all tournament long. They had a bad placing of 21st, maybe a 14th, a 17th, and a 13th. Outside of that, every single game was inside of the top 10. They didn't necessarily have the most eliminations in the tournament, but after it was over, Boltz even said he trusted Acorn. They're one of the teams that they don't have to get these big elimination games. Their consistency is key, and that's how they have been placing so high in these tournaments, particularly Boltz. Even without Acorn, you saw the stat when Vivid broke it down to start the whole entire finals. Boltz has been one of the most consistent players at these lands, pairing with one of the best IGLs in Acorn, who has the longevity out of this world, winning a major in almost every single chapter so far, almost every single chapter. His years of winning as well, almost every single year, so his accolades kind of go for himself, but it wasn't a blowout by any means. Ritual and Cold in 2nd place, 584 points, and they were on their tail almost all series long. They even had a game where they got lurked on by Moneymaker and F9. We're doing the teeny strat. We'll talk a little bit more about them later, where they went down, I think, about 46th place, 0 elims, a very bad 0-point game. They even started the day off not necessarily doing the best, 15th, 16th, 11th, but they closed out pretty well. It was just unfortunate that it really came down to Boltz and Cold as solo players, where Boltz was still able to clutch up a top 7 with 2 eliminations, and Cold ended up with a 9th place with 2 eliminations. So again, going into that last game, the point differential for Acorn and Boltz was enough to hold on. Plus, of course, Acorn and Boltz solo clutching to the very end. That was it. And then in 3rd place, Veno and Agers. This team, I feel like if they were uncontested all tournament long, we could be talking about Veno, the back-to-back coming from EU, just dominating the region, because his eliminations speak for themselves. He had 35 eliminations, the most eliminations as an individual. As we continue to look down the leaderboard, Batman Booga and Curve in 4th place, 525 points. Curve, his former duo, ended up with the 2nd most eliminations in the entire tournament as well, so maybe they shouldn't have broke up, but Agers was phenomenal as well. Veno and Agers triple contested to regular contested to eventually uncontested. They were the ones putting the pressure on the other team. So far we know, with Acorn and Boltz winning the actual FNCS, Ritual and Cold coming in 2nd, that's already 1 global championship spot, right? Agers and Veno, a 2nd global championship spot. Higgs and Curve, a 3rd global championship spot, and the 4th global championship spot goes to Muzz and Rise, and these guys deserve all the credit in the world. At one point in the tournament, they were in 1st place, which we all know is kind of a curse at some point, because that put a little bit of a target on their back. In one of the games, they got keyed by Peterbot and Poyo. In another game, they fell to a bug with the 0-point rift, so one of them wasn't able to hit it, so they kind of tried to play together, eventually had went down, so they lost out on a few opportunities there. Rise was so close to winning his first FNCS. Muzz winning his first FNCS, I believe, since chapter 2, the later season. So even though they didn't win, they put on a show. They regained a lot of respect for, I think, a lot of people, and they confirmed a global championship spot. Next up on the list, King and Craze. These guys had a little bit of a slow start. I didn't really see much of them on the broadcast. I would have loved to have seen more, been able to cast, because I did see in the feed they were picking up a few eliminations through the mid game. It's just 516 points overall. They did get a third place with 10 eliminations, double digits. Not too many teams were able to drop double digit eliminations, which brings me to my next team of Peterbot and Poyo. I'm not necessarily sure what went wrong there in day 2, because remember, in day 1, 333 points, a 1-point lead, but somehow it was Storm Surge at certain points. I know people have talked about maybe they got griefed and pushed. I know they did make that play where they pushed Muzz and Rise and tried to go for the win. Rise speaking up about it. Why didn't they go for Acorn and Boltz? They did get a victory royale, but they didn't get a singular game with 10 plus eliminations, which kind of goes to show that this might be one of those teams that goes for those high eliminations games, doesn't actually get them, and then ends up not as high up on the leaderboard as you would think, because in the past we're used to seeing them either getting top 3s, top 5s, winning games, 10 eliminations, 12 eliminations, 13, those types of things. And then those types of eliminations throughout the course of the tournament can make up for not so consistent overall placings. This time that didn't happen, 7th place, but them and King and Craze don't have to worry. They already locked in their global championship spots through Summit. But in 8th place, Iyamzo and Josh, 509 points. Just like Veno and Agers, they didn't necessarily have a clean drop spot either. The night before FNCS, they 1v1 Reet and Cooper, first to 10 for the actual drop spot. They lost the 2v2, and they lost the drop spot. They ended up dropping just west of Sanctuary. At first it was contested, then they ended up getting it to himself. So to me, not knowing where you're going to drop before the tournament is absolutely crazy. On day 1, we did see Iyamzo clutching up a lot of their points, but on day 2, Josh absolutely picked up the pace. They ended up 8th place overall, claiming their global championship spot, so they don't have to worry about that last chance globals qualifier, which is already starting, by the way. We'll go ahead and tune in with that and have an update later on, so make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you guys like my thoughts and feedback. But next up on the list, and they already have a global championship spot as well. They didn't necessarily play well in day 1, but in day 2 they picked up the pace. It's Golden and Ozone, 466 points. They only had 26 eliminations, so again, they're one of those teams that where if they don't have consistent games, they're not necessarily high up on the leaderboard. They don't necessarily see them pulling off these big elimination tournament games unless it's in the opens, unless it's in the earlier stages. But this is a team that can contend with the best of them in the actual finals lobby. They were able to squeak out a top 10 placing, just above Clicks and Rapid, our last global championship qualifying team. I'm not sure what really happened with them in day 1. Overall, you got to look at their placement. 20th place, they did get a 3rd, 40th place, 8th place, 33rd, and then 20th. They were rather inconsistent. I know Rapid kind of took a lot of the blame, but on day 2, 8th place, 2nd place, 5th place, 24th place, which obviously is not that good, but at least with 2 eliminations you get some placement points. And then they get a 2nd place with 7 eliminations. In that last game of the day though, interesting enough, if you look at the leaderboard, there were only 2 teams that can kind of break that bubble. It was Moneymaker and Fernian, and Queasy and Victor V. Everybody down below them was either already qualified to globals, which at that point was Golden and Ozone, and then Shadow and Virgo. So they didn't have to worry about them passing. So with the point gap that they had, it was only Queasy, Victor V, Moneymaker, and Fernian. They did go down in 23rd place with 2 eliminations. We saw a moment where Clicks was going crazy to survive. Check it out.
The miracle he's looking for. He's been using this chug the entire time to keep himself topped off, so one shot or a move like this doesn't take him down.
He's flying.
And he's like water flowing through these
oh my god.
to stay alive.
Oh, he's
Misses
gonna hit that,
first
though.
shot.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god. First down.
CEO!
Alleviate some of that pressure. Contract drops right. missing a couple shots here, but he is still keeping ahead in this fight. He's playing. He's playing. No!
He was able to get Rapid back up, and they were able to play out some of it. Like I said, 23rd with 2 eliminations, but it really didn't matter. They had around 440 points, I believe, going into the last game, and throughout the course of that game, Moneymaker and F9 actually went down super early in that last game, 46th place overall. They ended on 371 points, and then you look at Victor V and Queasy in that last game. They did make a run for it. 11th place, 5 eliminations, but it was almost where they needed the victory royale because they still were about 49 points shy, so they still needed the victory royale, maybe a couple of eliminations, but they did fall short. They gave it a valiant effort though, especially when it comes to Victor V. If you kind of look at some of his stats, his damage ratio is usually among the best of them. I know in the heat stages, he played all the games out over a 4.0, and he was 4th place overall with a 1.94, getting beat out by Peterbot, Muzz, and Cold on the overall stats. Cold having the only 2.0 and higher in the entire tournament. But so that's going to be your teams for the FNCS Global Championship overall. You got Acorn and Boltz, who won the tournament, Ritual and Cold, Agers, Veno, Batman, Booga, and Curve. You have Muzz and Rise. You have Josh, Iamzo, and then you have Clicks and Rapid, all qualifying for the Global Championship. So the last chance Globals is up for grabs. It's still anyone's game. Let me know who you guys think are going to take it, and let me know what you guys think of this FNCS on Central. On to NA West, where Epik and Pump at the end of day 1 were on 423 points. They had a 79-point lead over second place, Phoenix and Retro at 344. They had an 80-point lead over Ratgun and Blood Gangsta at 264. Then in Acton Salco at 4th place at 250. So when it comes to the overall race for top 2, you got to think Epik and Pump were safe, and in fact they were. In day 1, they had a back-to-back victory royale throughout the tournament. They didn't necessarily end that way, but they did have that lead because of it. Into day 2, that's when things kind of got a little crazy. Epik and Pump kind of went up and down, up and down. They had a 2nd place in that first game. Retro and Pump kept it close. They had a 5th place in that game. So again, another close tournament. The gap wasn't necessarily widened by a lot, but it was widened. But then Epik the next game went down in 8th place, or I should say 9th place, with only 1 elimination. That's when Phoenix and Retro were able to close the gap. They got a 1st place, Retro clutching a 1v2, 8 eliminations overall, and then the race was on. From there, you had Z-Link, Enact, Ratgun, Blood Gangsta, maybe Vorks and Evolved, and a couple others kind of in the race for top 2, but because Epik and Pump, Retro, and Phoenix started off so consistently, the gap at one point or another had widened to 150 points for top 2. So our global championship spots went to Epik and Pump and Phoenix and Retro. These are also 2 teams you will see at the Esports World Cup representing NA West. They both won one of the qualifiers, which was the condition for NA West, but the race continued on up until the very last game of the day. In game 11, Epik went down in 8th again. 5th place, Retro and Phoenix were able to get a 5th with 6 eliminations, so again closing the gap. And then in 8th, or in the last final game of the day, excuse me, that's how exciting it actually was, Epik and Pump went down in 11th place, and I actually caught the moment they went down, and this was it. It's crazy. You have to watch. The situation, the perfect storm is brewing right now. 250 plus points on the day for Pump. He is going to fall. Retro seems to still be alive. He gets the siphon. His 2nd elimination, 3rd one for the team. Top 7 situation here. How can he close the gap? That's going to be the biggest thing. Can he do it? Is there enough points on the board? Retro with a solo clutch of a lifetime, sliding through these builds, but it's costing him all of his materials. He's getting targeted out, falls into Ratgun, lands the first shot. Retro, this is just absolute chaos at its finest. Oh my God, Retro! He gets another elimination on the Blood Gangsta. FNCS on the line. He is cold as can be, and he is one of 3 different solos left in this game. There's 1 duo still up. He needs the points here. He needs the placement, but there's no extra builds. He's challenging him on high ground, and he goes down. Retro, what is the point difference? Is it enough? Z-Link and Enact They're on the heels of second place, but it's so far gone. And that goes down. Ratgun versus Z-Link. 1v1 for the last game of the day. And Z-Link's going to close it out. So at the end of the day, a 79-point lead after day one came down to 9 points for Phoenix and Retro. It was so close, and I loved every single minute of it. But by that point, the gap between second and third did close a little bit, but by then it was kind of already gone. Like I said, at one point, 150 plus points. But in third place, Enact and Z-Link actually did kind of clutch it out in the last game of the day. They did get a first place with 15 eliminations, and they were the ones who eventually stopped Phoenix and Retro from winning the entire tournament. Fourth place, Ratgun and Blood Gangsta. Vorks and Evolved in fifth. Timko and Suds in sixth. You had Soul and KJ, who almost qualified for the Summit Land, in seventh. CZR and Gabix in eighth. Silksies and OC in ninth. And then Compton and Snevy in 10th place overall. Faxity was able to close out inside of the top 20. He actually did win a game as well. So NA West dreams do come true. But overall elimination, Z-Link had 37. Timko with 30. Pump and Epicwell were third and fourth place overall with 27 and 25, kind of spreading out. But overall damage ratio, Epicwell at a 2.79, Pump with a 1.91. You had Retro in second place also with a 2.08, showing that kind of why they were the top two teams. Even damage to players, they had some of the most damage in the game. So overall, you guys, if you watched any of my videos, I talked about some of the best teams in West, and it was always Phoenix and Retro. It was Epicwell and Pump, amongst a few other names, but these guys are the two teams coming from NA West qualified to the Global Championship. Some teams may have broken up, others may have come back together for the last chance global qualifier. They're interesting enough, some teams aren't even playing. I did hear Phoenix and Retro might not be playing. They already got their global spot secured, so they kind of want to chillax, and I kind of understand as well. You don't want to put that extra stress before Esports World Cup, which is right around the corner as well. I'm going to be breaking down what the map process is, what the actual format is, the polls and predictions for the overall tournament in another video. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. Let me know what you guys think of this FNCS Grand Finals for either Central and West. If you're becoming a fan of West, I always urge players to try it out, watch it with me. I'll make sure it's entertaining, then give your thoughts afterwards. But I'm eager to hear you guys, and I always reply to the comments to keep the conversation going. But as always, I'll see you guys on the next one. Beep, beep.